We are once again in the booth. Of course, it's Flowball Boys, talking with people who love the game of baseball. But my guest today is repping the Pacific Northwest. This right here is a region where I instantly fell in love with when I went. I felt like 1975 met 2075 at the same time. Please welcome from Converge Media, co-founder and CEO, Omari Salisbury. What's going on, sir?
Man, what's happening? Welcome to the town, Seattle. We have been here.
Yeah, always, man. The Pacific Northwest doesn't usually get as much love as it deserves, but it was beautiful when I had a chance to go visit a couple
You,
of years
you know,
back.
let me tell you something. Of course, I'm biased, man, but I've been to a lot of cities, and a lot of cities are just dope in different ways, right? Like Chicago has its own reasons why it's special, and you go to places like Houston or Miami, but like Seattle, because of the topography here, you know what I'm saying? You got two mountain ranges, you got the Puget Sound, you got the lake and everything. It's one of the most stunning cities, not only in America but in the world. And it works out good for us because it rains here a lot, but because it's beautiful, it brings some balance to us.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, thank you so much for your time here. We're talking about baseball, we're talking about the city, we're talking about Converge. But before we get started, though, I'm looking behind you and you literally got writing on the wall. Like, is that like autographs? What's going on back there?
Well, so I'm coming to you here from our Black Media Matters studio in downtown Seattle. We're only actually about 6 blocks from T-Mobile Park. And this is our office area, and the studio is right over there. And man, these are signatures in this studio from over the last 4 years of people. It's our thing. If you do an interview, you sign the wall. And like at this point, it's like over 400 signatures in here. It's a lot of people, from entertainers like Sherry Shepherd to ball players and athletes to the last few mayors to legislators to community leaders
Oh, wow.
to even youth baseball players. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All here on the wall. So that's their own special place.
As a comedian who's on hiatus, it means the world because you go to a green room, you sign the wall. Like, I've been here, Flappers. I've been here, Portland. I've been here, LA. It's pretty dope. But let's talk about Converge Media, man. That was when I first came across your platform. I kind of stumbled in it because we had like a bunch of mutuals, especially in the sports space. But of course, you're more than just sports. But your idea, your mission of how you launched this brand, walk me through that, man.
Well, so I'll be honest with you. I spent about 20 years of my career overseas, right? In the media space, everything from being a on-air personality in radio. You know what I'm saying? I never had a face for TV, but I always had a face for radio.
Let's
Uh,
go.
to launching TV stations like in the Middle East, in the UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, and Tanzania, Kenya, Rwanda, all over the place, man, in the media space, TV, radio, streaming platforms, and everything else. And I came back home in 2016, and man, really saw that there was a gap in our community. And one thing I saw overseas is that people really wanted hyper local content. They wanted something like, what's up in my neighborhood, or what's up in this general region. And in this part of America, it turns out in a lot of part of America, that news isn't there, especially in video format. As you know, video, no matter what, is the most expensive and the most laborious of all things. I did radio, or I'm a writer as well, but we wanted to find a way to show Black excellence and Black joy, and Black greatness through high quality film and video. And that's kind of what we do here. And so that being said, we make documentary films. We made a film, actually, Reconciliation Tour, a baseball film, about Seattle's Baseball Beyond Borders, who at the time, oddly enough, Dan Wilson, he's still an ambassador for them, but of course now he's the manager for the Mariners, where they traveled down to Jackson, Mississippi, and did some youth camps down there, and went into to Montgomery as well. And we got an Emmy nomination on that. So we make films. We produce TV shows. We have the show Back to Besa, which is on Fox Soul, and also on the Fox station here, Fox 13 in Seattle. We have a lot of community-based programming that we produce. We got a bunch of films on Alaska Airlines. That's our hometown airlines, and they're in-flight entertainment. And we make content for people like the Seattle Mariners and other sports teams here. But everything we do is really through this Black lens.
Yeah.
And that's just the name of our studio. It's the Black Media Matter Studio. Today, tomorrow, forever. This is our position. We're not anti anybody, and that's why we thrive out here, because people know it's like, man, Converge, we ain't anti nobody. We just pro-black.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
As a business owner, is that a fine line to walk, or is pretty much an easy mission to have
No,
a black experience without being seen as someone that's only black content?
no. So let me tell you that for it's easy and it's accepted, and even more than that, it's respected because we're not grifting. This is what we believe, and people respect whether you agree or disagree. It's always a level of respect when you're dealing with a true believer on something, right? And then also, for us, especially in this part of America, there was opportunities for us to really have to be bigger and to have more resources if we rode with BIPOC. If we're a BIPOC media source, that opens it up to everything else, right? But we're like, no, I mean, we're not. And we're not, if you go to Seattle, but Converge is one of the most loved platforms in this part of America. And it's not that, like I said, we're against anything, but like our people need their own specialized attention. I know how to best represent our us in any aspect. It was sports, if it's business, if it's just community things, right? That's an expertise that I've honed in on. And so as opposed to casting this wide net, where it's like it's BIPOC or it's this and that, we're like, no, man, this is the black story is what matters to us. Now, of course, that means that we don't get all the advertising dollars and we don't get this and that, but it's all right because it's the impact that we're having out here and staying committed to represent the black voice. And I will tell you that when we first started out, because we make long form content, not as long as your show, but an average segment that we're putting on TV is maybe 5 minutes, 6 minutes. So for TV or even on Instagram or something, that's long, right? And people used to tell us like, you need to make everything 1 minute and put it on TikTok. I said, there's no way I'm reducing any black story down to just TikTok, and people told us like, it's not going to work and everything else. But now you have, national platforms that are chasing us because there's very few companies in America that are making high quality. We're an uplift. We're a positive platform. We tell positive black stories. We put paint where it ain't. And there's very few production companies in America that are producing as much uplifting, positive content about black people, which was surprising to me. I thought that we're in Seattle, we got to just be, we're on the bottom of the list. But when I move across America, we find that we're very unique here. And so now our content is, you're finding it on national platforms and even international platforms. We're getting ready to do a deal over for like 35 or 36 countries overseas. And like, who knew? We was always just making stuff for our neighborhood, making our people like representing. And we didn't know the whole world's been watching.
Well, are you from Seattle proper or Tacoma or Parkland or ever?
In Jackson, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the hood. I'm from the turf. I went to James A. Garfield High School. That's the same high school that Quincy Jones went to, the same high school that Jimi Hendrix went to, the same high school. We got so many people out there. Brandon Roy went to Garfield. Basketball is actually like, that's Seattle was super major,
Right.
I mean, whether you're talking about Jamal Crawford, now my head wants to go blank, but Seattle is really, really big on basketball culture. But yeah, I'm from the turf, man. You know what I'm saying? From the,
I respect that, man. Very like the movie Goodfellas, right? They can trace the name back to your old hood, right?
They can do the trace, man. I'm from the Central District of Seattle, and that's Seattle's legacy black neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? It's over 140 years old. Where that's the turf.
Yeah, like I said before we went live, I had a chance to visit Seattle, and I walked the streets. It was very interesting, kind of almost like how the East Coast used to do it, how you had these historic neighborhoods next to the modern neighborhoods, next to the ethnic neighborhoods, next to the white neighborhoods, on top of each other. I won't say harmony, but almost like this complementary yin-yang, almost like Lego bricks. However you got this fit together. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. But you had mentioned one of the clients you worked with was the Seattle Mariners, and this is a baseball podcast. So I got to ask, when does your affiliation or affinity, I should say, for the Seattle Mariners actually start?
Man, this is so dope, right? So depending on how old you are, and a lot of listeners and viewers are, they might remember the Kingdome. And, that's the original home for the Mariners. And T-Mobile Park is literally just kind of across the street from where the Kingdome used to be. Well, the Kingdome is on Jackson Street, and Jackson Street runs right through the hood. And so I grew up on 29th. We used to hang out on 23rd. And, we walked down to the ballpark. You really had no extra money for nothing, man. You're gonna walk them 20 blocks, you know what I'm saying? And unlike New York, where it's flat,
Right.
it's easy getting down to the kingdom, but you gotta walk back. But like as a kid, my love for the Mariners, you go into the Kingdom, and this is back in the days. You had players like Gaylord Perry and things like that, and the Mariners, and Alvin Davis. I think that Alvin Davis is really who sparked my love for the Mariners and for baseball, because Alvin Davis was, you would remember him and some of the other players, Harold Reynolds, things like that. They'd come to the neighborhood, man. They would be in the neighborhood, and they make sure that like guys had tickets and everything. And I just remember going down there to the Kingdom as a kid and watching the M's, and the Kingdom was massive, by the way, very big building, and it was more like the community love of Alvin Davis is why somebody like me loved the Mariners more than any individual play or shot or you know what I'm saying, this and that. Of course, we were here through the Griffey era and Edgar Martinez and everything, and Ichiro. So there's all those moments there, but it was the connection and community first. They didn't really have anything to do with like balls and strikes and everything else. Of course, we're there to watch the game, but these guys, man, they were larger than life, family.
Yeah.
And to see them in the hood, and to see them like, really caring about us, and to see them talking about, man, you guys keep your grades up and you do this and that. And you know what I'm saying? Those things that sometimes people think these days is corny, man, it made such an impact, not only on myself, but so many other people. And so like my love for the Mariners, what I was saying before, is that the organization, as when I was a kid, reached out to me. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As a kid, come join us, be part of this experience. And man, it's just never left me. And it's only enhanced and grown. And, the Mariners, so many times throughout my life, I've weaved in and out of, of how the Mariners has interacted with me. You know what I'm saying? That the Mariners, my first interaction as a kid was, like I said, with Alvin Davis and them. And then later on, when I started my business, I used to sell beer and peanuts there in T-Mobile Park, trying to save money to buy a camera. And now the Mariners hire me to go and shoot content, and they run advertising on some of our TV shows like Back to Besa. And so it's like, my whole life, there's different timelines here with this baseball team on different levels. So it's kind of cool.
Shout out to Seattle or the Mariners, for being that accessible throughout. People, I grew up in Brooklyn, and I have a choice in baseball teams, and I chose the Mets really early because the people on the screens look like me. And then the commercials are always show up at Shea. It was almost like a civic duty to show up for your team. So let me ask you, when you went to games, what was the normal? Was it you and the kids on the block? Was it your family? Was it after church? Was it Tuesday nights? Like, when did you go? What was experience like back then?
Well, as a kid, it was just like, guys from the neighborhood walking down there, maybe get a transfer on a bus. And we're just, being in the Kingdom. And part of it as a kid, too, is the Kingdom was so big. You be watching the game. When the Yankees came to town, you might as well just be exploring.
Right.
Because we knew what the outcome was going to be, especially back in those days. But yeah, man, we would just walk down Jackson Street, you know what I'm saying, coming to the Dome. A lot of times, it was 300 level. We got some good seats sometimes, but a lot of times, it's 300 level. And 300 level in the Kingdom, my friend, was 300 level. Now, in the safe, or I guess it's T-Mobile Park now. T-Mobile Park, like most modern ballparks in America, it's hard to find a bad seat because of the design and everything else. But back then, buddy, way up there. But it was just the fact of being there in the building, and you know what I'm saying, and being around other kids who were just enthusiastic about the game and everything else.
So today, where do you sit at T-Mobile? What do you usually eat or drink? Are you a pretzel guy? Do you get the nachos? Where do you sit and what do you eat, bro?
I got some good stuff for you, right? So today, I'm a credentialed member of the media, right? And
Flexing on them. Okay.
we actually have a dedicated seat up there in the press box. But man, you know what? I like to sit in a few different places. I'm gonna go over here why and like who you with, right? So if I'm with somebody, like say if you were to go like on a date, whether it's date night with your wife or a date with somebody new or whatever, I'm really trying to sit there on the first base line or the third base line in the 100 level, 10 rows back or whatever. Because you gotta kind of flex a little bit. Like we close to the game. What's up? You know what I'm saying? And it's all good, and it's lots of energy there. You know what I'm saying? Ideally sitting behind the Mariners dugout, but them tickets is tough. But you know what I'm saying? Visiting team is always great because you can get a little conversation going. If their fans are there, and so that's that one, right? But like my favorite place to sit is the bleachers, and not just because it's cheap. You know what I'm saying? It's because it's like you just act up out there in center field. You know what I'm saying? And especially if you're going with a group, and that's the thing. It's like so. And when the Mariners, is not every game, but there's a certain number of games where those bleacher seats are $10. And if you really staying up on that, man, you can bring like everybody from the office, or you know what I'm saying, you can bring your crew and everything else. It's less stuffy because if you're sitting behind first base, and I was on TV for a whole game, right? Because they actually gave me the seat one time that's literally right behind home plate.
Yeah.
So you got to watch yourself, man. So you might be, somebody's like, you get a text message like, "Hey,
watch the game." Yeah,
but Seattle is. I wouldn't say we got bootsy fans at all, but some of those seats probably like any city. You know what I'm saying? It's a certain level of hey. 10, 3 rows back, but the bleachers, fam, you know what I'm saying? He'd be out there, and it's really cool. There's some spots in the 300 level, but the outfield bleachers is really dope. And I even like the positioning of it, but also the marketing of it, because it's like this is just kind of like any man, any person can sit here kind of thing and enjoy themselves. And I think that's important in baseball, especially important in a city like Seattle, where like through gentrification and displacement and everything else and lack of opportunity now, a lot of it's majority tech. You got a lot of people here, man. They're making, and God bless them, $150,000, $200,000 a year, and they got the resources and everything else, and so they can support like a higher ticket. They can support a this and that, and they're in the ballpark, so they're definitely fans. But it's a little bit different than what I'm saying, the people who kind of been like lifelong and who can no longer afford to go to the ball game. So I look forward to that. The food at T-Mobile Park, yeah, you'll find the pretzel. They there. And by the way, what T-Mobile Park did is they implemented, man, affordable food.
Mm-hmm.
Which was really cool because they got a lot of food options there, but a lot of stuff, it's like one thing that's beautiful about baseball is, for the most part, it's like, man, an everyday guy could just bring his family there. You know what I'm saying? Like, you find a ticket $16, $17, $20, somewhere in that. You know what I'm saying? And because of the seating at T-Mobile Park, there's not really a bad seat. But, you got somebody, a lot of my people, man, they're essential workers. They might work 2-3 jobs. Bro, if you got your 2 kids, your wife, man, you can't go to a Kraken game. You can't go to a Seahawks game. And if the Sonics were here, you couldn't really go to a Sonics game. But, baseball has consistently been a space just for the common man based upon ticket pricing and everything else, man. And so just the game generally, as I see. But like in Seattle, we right here on the water, man. So, you might get a pretzel or you might get sushi up in there. You see what I'm saying?
Facts. I didn't realize there's a Din Tai Fung inside T-Mobile Park. I was like, okay, all right.
Yeah, it's a really big. They really put an investment into eating there, and like what happened with us, and is that every year we get invited because we're media. We got these shows. We get invited to the preview, so we always get to taste everything that's going to be on the menu.
Oh wow!
You know what I'm saying a few weeks before the ballpark opens, and they be stepping up, man. You eat good at T-Mobile Park, fam.
Yeah, okay.
No, you ain't gonna get no complaints out of T-Mobile Park. Like I said, you might get sushi, You know what I'm saying? The barbecue, this, that, and all the regular stuff that people might used to be finding at the ballpark. But we put a spin on it out here, and what they really tried to do is make the cuisine in the ballpark representative of the city. And so there's quite a few black-owned establishments, not only in T-Mobile Park, but even over at Seahawks Stadium. So you know what I'm saying? Whatever you into, you go and get it in.
All right, so you touch upon that kind of like dynamic, a dualism of a team, right? On one hand, there are accessible based on inventory ways to go to see a game. There are value games where I think when I went, it was a $10 game. I think it was like them against the Brewers or whatever. But you're right, there is an influx of the affluent clientele that can sit at premium places at the park. The question is, I know this is only one team, but is baseball doing enough to really attract both kinds of fans, the ones that do generate the revenue versus the more of the common fans that want to be part of the team on a community level?
Nah, it's not. Well, so here's what I will say is that I think that baseball dropped the ball, but I do see them trying, right? And so it would be, if you're just like, is baseball doing enough? The direct answer is, of course, no. But I do see them trying. I see more and more like all over the place with trying to create opportunities for accessibility and things to the ballpark, because it's weird. If you own something, I own something, right? I make TV, I make this and that, but still, and when we sell stuff, just like these guys are selling a ticket to the game, you do want to sell stuff to people who are like really into what you're doing, as opposed to kind of, I'm happy to sell things to anybody, to be honest with you. We try to get lights on. But, some things are transactional and some things are like, man, these are people who appreciate our art. Both might be paying the same price, but, it's always something different when they appreciate your art and they see it so much deeper, and that connection is there and everything else. And so, these guys' job over at T-Mobile Park is to sell, I think 3 million tickets a year or whatever it is. Hook or crook to whoever's buying. But a lot of the things, I think that baseball, like some other sports, they forgot about, these communities that grew up loving baseball. So for me, if I didn't love baseball, you know what I'm saying, I wouldn't feel that I'm being spoken to. Mm-hmm. Right? But it doesn't matter if they speak to me or not, because like I said, I'm going to be at the ballpark anyway. But there's so many communities that are out there that it's like, as a game, it's not really being spoken to. I'm a bit biased right now because, we approached the Mariners with that 2 years ago. And it was like, man, and not just for our platform, but for all ethnic media and everything else. We're like, man, you guys aren't representing. People don't feel welcome. And if the only time you're welcome is salute to the Negro Leagues and Juneteenth and everything else, then it's tokenism. Mm-hmm. And, it's like, the organization over there, Kevin Martinez and Greg Green, they really heard that loud and clear. And for us, they're going into their second year of advertising, on our show Back to Base, and advertising on Converge and going and collaborating and this and that. We actually shot a commercial over there. They gave Base the whole ballpark. She shot a commercial over there in the ballpark and things like that. And so they're open, I think, at least I can say with the Seattle Mariners, they're open, and I think they're having an honest internal conversation of who are we missing? Right. Who did we maybe took for granted because they used to be rock solid, like you said, with Black people here in Seattle for years, up until 10, maybe 15 years ago. Certain teams would come to town and they, the ball players would have a party down there, exclusive event, this and that. Man, it was a big deal. Baseball was a big deal in this city. Not as big as the Sonics, of course, but it was a big deal in this city. And there was a lot of celebrity and pomp and circumstance around baseball. And even if people didn't make it to the baseball game, they went to an event or a party that a baseball player was throwing and all these kind of things. And it's dissipated because, of course, there's not that many Black players that are, we talk about these numbers all the time. And so it's the culture with it. And Seattle was a place we got hit hard with the Sonics because any city in America that loses an NBA team loses an organization that has a direct connection with the Black community like this. Any city, the ball players are getting their hair cut in the neighborhood. They're doing this and that or whatever. They're supporting local, all these things. the NBA was so integral here into like how the black community saw themselves and the access the black community had. You get even people like a Sean Kemp opening the doors for this nonprofit or that nonprofit. So they were gone, boom. And then you see a decline like in across Major League Baseball of black ball players that come to our city, or even black ball players that are on the team here. And so culturally, our small black community, there's only 50,000 black people in Seattle, 300,000 across this part of the state, are impacted by those things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so they trying to get it back. I'll be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? Talking to the M's a lot. They're trying to find those spaces, not only in the black community, but other communities of where like there's these gaps, and letting people know that like, man, you're welcome in the ballpark. And, you know, we want to support them in those efforts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I do feel like, and I had if you guys long-term listeners of the show, I can tell you my theory about this, but there was a time where there really wasn't a black presence. And I was fortunate enough to be in an MLB commercial in 2023 for the MLB Play app. So I'm the guy in the commercials like, hey man, download the app today and play all the games. You could win $5.6 million. And I looked around at that commercial and I was hired. And I didn't think people like me would be in a baseball commercial 5 or 10 years ago. And so I do think the efforts are there. But that leads into my next question. As of right now today, is baseball cool? Why or why not?
Well, I guess it depends at what level and who we're talking to, right?
Yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm just
Hello. Baseball is starting to get more traction with young people. Like here in Seattle, the coolness factor is back, but it's not just because of it's baseball. It's because of organizations like Baseball Beyond Borders that are being intentional, and Softball Beyond Borders, and there's so many of like these RBI organizations. Reviving baseball inner city organizations across America, that they're really leading the charge. And you know what I'm saying, with the support, of course, of Major League Baseball, that baseball has become viable. And also like some of these other sports, man, a lot of times, I mean, these kids are getting burnt out, and the parents are kind of seeing baseball as a different option. Like one is safety, like baseball and soccer are getting more players now just based upon like injuries that might be associated to your kids playing football. Hey, basketball, AAU, they want these kids to play year round, and it's expensive, and there's all these other things that are out there. And so when you didn't have these RBI programs that are out there, and you're just kind of looking at like neighborhood little league in a city with shifting demographics, where, you know, in my neighborhood, the little league teams 20 years ago, it was all black players and black coaches. If you sign up right now, these are still very great programs and everything else. But the facts are the facts that, you know, now it's all mostly white kids and white coaches. And so like, if you're a parent, you're looking for like some cultural relevancy for your kid and everything else, you might not be signing your kid up to play in the Central District anymore. Right. And so if you don't have an outlet like Baseball Beyond Borders and everything else, your aspiration for your kid to play baseball might dissipate. But these organizations, I'd say for my city, and of course down in Houston a lot with the Astros, with their youth academy, what they're doing there is amazing. These organizations are really bringing baseball back. You know, is it warp speed? I'm talking about for young people. Is it warp speed? No. You know, but is it happening? Yes. Are we seeing more and more young kids and parents now being invested in the game of baseball? Yes. We got to keep our foot on the gas, though, with our young people, because it's a great opportunity for them in baseball and in a space to do something. There's other barriers, as we know, can get expensive and all these other kind of things, which is why you got like things like RBI and MLB ID. I think that like beyond that age category, though, what the baseball experience is cool. You know what I'm saying? Like they launched the hockey here, the Seattle Kraken. And the Kraken got a lot of early success in the crowds because of the product itself, not necessarily the game on the ice. You know, it was just brand new arena. It's beautiful, well orchestrated, the lighting, the this, the that, you know, the food, everything. It's just a great product. But has somebody left a fan of the game, or have they left a fan of the experience? Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of like two different things. So when you go to T-Mobile Park, it's an amazing experience. And I think that a lot of people, at least black people, yeah, we love RMs and things like that. And people will go, there might be a company night there or this, whatever kind of night. Fireworks nights are always big and everything else. Um, and so they're a fan of the experience, but we're trying to get them to be more of a fan of the game as well, because that'll keep you coming no matter, if it's fireworks night or not.
Yeah.
Uh, but like one thing that really happened here that was cool, that really energized people around baseball in this city like I've never seen before, was the HBCU Swingman Classic in 2023. Because black people saw baseball in a way in this city they'd never seen it ever.
Mm-hmm.
Ever. They'd never seen it. And the way that it was communicated, it was marketed, how, you know what I'm saying? You had thousands and thousands of black folks show up over there to T-Mobile Park. Like in our communications, we was like, yo, man, it's like homecoming. You know what I'm saying? It's like HBCU. It's like home. Step shows over there. You had the divide nine. It was, you know what I'm saying? You had the drum line out there and everything. But it activated people in Seattle around the game of baseball that I've never seen before. And I think that like HBCU Swingman serves different purposes in different cities. Like you go down there to Dallas, I mean, people are used to seeing black people and this and that whole experience. But for Seattle, we've never experienced all those different dynamics, including the players on the field. But you go from the players from the field all the way out to like, what? It's a black event at T-Mobile Park, and it's going to be this and that, and these colleges are there, and this is happening, and everything else, and the way it's communicated. It shook us to our core in the best way about what's possible in baseball in this city. And that's why even in March, a spin out of what came out to that is they're launching the HBCU Seattle series, where Coppin State University is coming out from Baltimore, and they're going to play Seattle University here in 3 games.
Oh, wow.
So, like, that's an outcome that came out of Swingman Classic. It's like Coppin State's coming out here. They're playing 3 games. Like, it activated our city around what's possible around baseball and black people. And actually, when you're talking about college, you're talking about the development of baseball players potentially, into that pipeline. You see parents, there were so many parents who brought their kids out there, and they're showing their kids, like, look, you see these guys, they're in college, and they're playing baseball. You can go to a HBCU, because a lot of times if you're good in baseball, you're like, man, I'm not going to go to no HBCU. I'm not going to get no look. Ain't no guy going to be looking at me. But the fact is, like, man, that's the kid right there. This Ken Griffey's down there. Ken Griffey's, working with these players. And when you went into the dugout and you saw these legendary coaches that were there, it was transformational, even for our young people who are playing baseball, that like, who are on a college track, that an HBCU is now an option. It opened so many eyes of what was possible around the game of baseball and black people and culture and everything else. I mean, it was
well, that's kind of an interesting take. Like, if I know this is kind of a unfair question, but if you owned a team, not necessarily Seattle Mariners, if you owned a team, what would be first? What would be your first priority? Is it having cultural events to show your neighborhood that you're about it, or to draft players that look like your intended demographic?
I mean, I think that I would draft the players because, me bringing the community, which is cool, they're going to come, but we got to give them a reason to stay.
Right. Absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so, like, clearly something like Swingman can't happen here every year, but you see something else came out of it that, like, okay, let's keep you interested in baseball. How do we keep you like our job, which is crazy because it's like I don't work for MLB or the Mariners, but I just feel like I'm an ambassador, street level ambassador for the game. Man, our job is to have people fall in love, or at least find an affinity for this game again from a young age, and or wherever somebody's at in life, because they might have influence. You know what I'm saying? We want people to love this game. I grew up loving this game. My mama used to, all these stories. My mom grew up in Central Florida, and she always has a Jackie Robinson story because these guys, some spring training or this and that. But people had, if you talk to a lot of our elders, you know what I'm saying, Big Mama and them, especially from down south, they got a baseball story for you. Whether it was Negro League or it was this and that and all those things. And so, like, those stories being told, right? And so that connection was there. And for a long time, if you listen to Big Mama and even your mom, your aunts and uncles, when you turn on TV and you saw that game, you can see a direct relationship to what they was talking about, right?
Yeah.
Now, like we said, that we don't really see a lot of it. And so, like for me, like I said, if I own the team, I'd be like, man, let's get some representation in here. So, like I said, our community will stay. They'll find a reason to want to keep coming back and enjoying the game, and also learn more about all these other players and everything else. Because believe me, when the kid hit the town, when Ken Griffey Jr. hit the town, listen,
Yeah.
let me tell you, that was our guy. You see what I'm saying? Like, I mean, we didn't have to have no reason to show up to the ballpark. The kid was there. People didn't even know what the Mariners record was. It didn't matter. It was Ken Griffey, not just because he was dope, of course, but because, man, he looked like us. And it was, what, the dopest dude in the game? He looked like us? Oh, you couldn't tell us nothing here in Seattle.
Look, I grew up a Frank Thomas guy. All due respect to Derek Jeter, but Ken Griffey was like the dude that had his own baseball sneaker, and the hook copped. The hook copped the baseball shoe.
Like, it's like, I mean, that was the Griffey era, and there's been some time since then, but that Griffey era also captivated the imagination. I think not only of Black Seattle, but of Black America around baseball, and it revives those stories of the legendary story and the legacy of who we are. Baseball is the only sport that we ever owned. And I think people forget about that. And so part of it's education. And if you get a chance to talk to Mookie Gates, tell you more, it's like, for us, a big thing is education. We tell young people, baseball is the only sport we ever owned. You know what I'm saying? And we gave up what we owned for equality. You see what I'm saying? And when we were talking about these franchises and everything that went into them, and some even owned the ballpark. Outside of that, I mean, it was Black folks who cooked the food, who sold the concessions, who printed the tickets, who took the tickets. It was Black bus companies that moved them around, and they had to stay in Black hotels and go to Black gas stations and everything else. This whole economy that was built over the only sport that we ever owned in this country, and we should never forget that. You know what I'm saying? This is I mean, we have a vested interest in baseball. That, like Black America, we sacrificed an economic driver across so many cities in America. And even right here, we had the Seattle Steelheads, our Negro League team here in Seattle. And we sacrificed something that we owned, and we gave it, basically. You know what I'm saying? To Major League Baseball, for the most part. And I'm oversimplifying, of course. But, we should never forget that the baseball legacy in America is part and parcel to the Black story, to the Black journey. You know what I'm saying? And even if you go to a World Series and it's like, oh, there's no Black player, American-born Black players for the first time or whatever, man, that doesn't erase our legacy and our history and what we mean to this game. You know what I'm saying? Like on the real, man. And that's kind of like how we feel. And that's kind of like, when I'm talking to people about the game and everything else, especially young people, young Black kids, man, their eyes get so big when I tell them, I said, man, this is the only sport we ever owned, family. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And not even hating on Ice Cube or everything. It was dope to see what he's doing there with the Big Three. And I don't tweet much in response to anything, but they were tweeting out it's like the first Black-owned sports, league. And I said, hey, hold on, bro.
Yeah.
Let me take you back in time.
Okay, well, don't. Now I know why Ice Cube was at a diss track about. No, I'm just kidding. It's like, why are you so mad? No, I mean, look, as a CEO, co-founder, a lot of plates you got to juggle, a lot of projects you're working on. I mean, it's 2025. What's next? I know we got the Reconciliation Tour film. We're going to link to that in the show notes. But what's your brand working on for the future?
Man, that's an interesting question because, like, for us, you can imagine. Well, you say you grew up in Brooklyn. What part of Brooklyn?
Flatlands.
Imagine if Flatlands had its own TV station.
Oh.
And all it did was dope stuff about Flatlands, and maybe the next few neighborhoods over, and every once in a while about all of Brooklyn, and then sometimes like maybe all of it, like New York City, right?
Yeah.
And so, but imagine that you just making content, dope stuff about Flatlands, and you're super focused on it. But now the whole world's watching all your stuff. Like, we're like, man, we just talk about Flatlands. But the way we make it, the stories we tell, it might catch you over the Mets game. You know what I'm saying, and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And so we be so hyper focused on our local, like telling our story about the Black experience here, that now looking up, everybody's wanting our content. Like I said, we did a national deal with Fox Soul. We got another national deal coming here. Can't really talk about it yet. You know what I'm saying? We're going over onto the continent of Africa. We're going over, like, our distribution is getting ready to be crazy for our content and what we make.
Well, hold on, let me ask a question. I'm gonna jump in here for a second. So I have another podcast about entrepreneurs. Question for you then: when you sign a deal with a Fox or something like that, do you celebrate, or is it kind of like, yo, the other day, another dollar? I don't celebrate when the mailman delivers the mail. Like, what's your mentality when you make a deal happen?
We're behind. I'm not celebrating anything. Like,
Okay.
I feel like the years that I spent having, you know what I'm saying, being shut out, being overly qualified and being shut out, and having to drive Uber and selling beer and peanuts at T-Mobile Park to be able to get my first camera, has set me behind at least 3, 4, 5 years. You see what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I'm just like, man, we acknowledge it. Like when we won that Emmy as an organization here, we won the Emmy. I told the guy, I said, man, it was on a Saturday. I said, man, you guys celebrate that tomorrow, Sunday, put all your pictures up. I said, Monday, man, we got to get back on this grind. And so, like, for me personally, it's definitely worth celebrating those. Let me just be clear. You know what I'm saying? Signing a national content partnership or distribution deal or even local TV, man, it's worth celebrating.
Yeah.
So, you know, let me be clear. But for us, it's like what we wanted to achieve on a grand scale. We know what we want to see. We see the light at the end of the tunnel, and we know we're not there yet. And what I'm saying is like, we're hyper focused here on our content here, but so many opportunities are opening up for us, you know, not only across America, but globally. And so my challenge is to always stay true to our neighborhood. We said we launched Converge. We wanted to make our parents and our grandparents, big mama and them, proud of what we do. And so that's our moral compass. That's where we're focused all day, every day, is on that moral compass right there. Are we making stuff that's going to make our parents proud, our grandparents proud? Are they going to be proud to talk about us? And, you know, we balance. It really ain't no balance because that's where we're at. But, you know, there's the focus of serving our local community and now being pulled in directions where other people want our content. And so how do we want to grow? And we've managed our growth here in the sense that we've always put our community first, and we know that it's going to take longer to get where we want to be. But as long as we stay true to our values and who we are, that ultimately the world is going to come to us. And that's kind of like what's happening. It's not at a major scale yet, but we've never left. I mean, bro, I own a production studio. We're one of the few Black-owned TV production that's putting shows on TV at this level. Of course, you got like the Tyler Perrys and the 50 Cents, but on this level in America, I can make anything. I can make clickbait. I can make, you know, all kinds of stuff. You know, I can run up the numbers. I can have, you know, gossip. I can have whatever. Everything that we make is about the uplift, man, and about Black excellence and, you know, in Black beauty and Black business. And, you know, so yeah, we ain't celebrating, man. We got a long ways to go, but we gonna get there.
I respect that, man. Just having chatting with you, Mr. Salisbury. Love hanging with the game. But I got one more question for you before we roll out of here, and that is, right now, who should I be looking at on the Seattle Mariners team? Your favorite players? Like, who is your guy in baseball right now, or guys, or team, or vibe?
Mariners are dope this year. It's gonna be interesting because, like, we got Randy. We've got let's see how JP's doing, and then of course Julio. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got, like, if we get the Seattle, here's what I'm gonna tell you. It happens every year, bro, but the timing is wrong. You see what I'm saying? That's Soto Mojo, and Soto means south of downtown. So if people have ever heard anything around the Mariners, they're like Soto Mojo, and that's where the stadium is at, south of downtown Soto. So when that Soto Mojo kicks in, bro, it's a beautiful thing. You know what I'm saying? But it always happens too early.
Yeah. No, I hear you. Yeah.
Time it in September. But nah, man, I mean, I'm really excited because, like, watching like Julio kind of develop, you know what I'm saying, in the program. And the Mariners was rocking with him for a long time, man. Ever since he was down in he was like in high school, you know what I'm saying? And so in that program and seeing him develop is really dope. But the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to this year personally,
Hit me.
my own personal thing.
Personal.
Because last year I was doing a rehab on my whatchamacallit, on my leg, and so I didn't get to as many games. But before he ever got to the Mariners, I remember I was watching the World Series of baseball, and I see Randy Arozarena.
Oh.
And I remember so I was talking to my guy Chuck, who has our show Circling Seattle Sports, and I'm like, Chuck, who is this dude? He's like, yeah, that's Randy. I think he plays down in Tampa or something like this and that.
Yeah.
Mexico, blah, blah. I was like, man, if the Mariners ever got this dude, it'd be fire. And we ended up getting Randy, bro. So, like, I'm invested for a whole season just on that. You know what I'm saying?
Facts. If you're listening right now and you've never seen Randy Arozarena play, like his backstory is crazy. Cuban national, got Mexican citizenship to play in the World Baseball Classic. Just a fantastic player to watch. I'm with you, man. That's a good one. That's a real good one. In the meantime, I see you wearing the Classic M's logo. Do you prefer the Classic M's or are you a Compass guy? I put you on the spot.
Can I be honest with you though?
Be honest. Yeah.
I'll be honest with you. So my son, he goes to, or actually he just graduated from Loyola University in Chicago, right? And so this right here is okay for Seattle, Northwest, and everything else. But I can't wear the trident, the traditional trident.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Luckily, I didn't find out the hard way. But like, so my favorites though, right? Is my all-time favorite is now this. It's been it's the steelhead, which is representative. Plus, it's the just simple black and white. And the steelheads was the Negro League here in 1947. It's not traditional. It's not a Mariners shirt. They wear it once a year or whatever, but it's dope. But yeah, I rock with the trident over the S all day long, man.
I respect that, man. I'm with you with that. So.
The trident is got it popping, man, and the different variations of it. I do the S every once in a while, but you know what I'm saying? This is banging.
Hey, ain't no road swag, man. Converge meet in the house. Yo, you're listening to In the Booth with Global Boys. Thank you so much for rocking me, man. It was a cool conversation. Just learn more about your business, your drive, your motivation, and your love of the game.
Oh, man. Thank you so much.